Welcome back to the shop, everybody. Nathan Wilson here, Driving Dreams Restorations. Had a lot of requests for how to take the window and the regulator out. I've already made this video, but I can't seem to find it. Also made a video about changing the window motors in the regulator. Not sure where that went. I had a whole disk drive full of videos that I seem to have temporarily misplaced. So I'm going to make this one again real quick. Hopefully this makes it on YouTube at some point. I'm just going to start posting shorter, crappier videos and not worry about editing them and, you know, trying to make them better. Because at least they get out there. And then I'm also, when I finish this, I'll make the video of repairing the regulators, repairing the original window motors, and then also replacing with the Dorman motors. Like, I think I may have already had that video out, but anyway, so without further ado, here's how you take the window, the glass out, and the regulator out. Step one, unplug the motors. I already, this is for the vent motor, this is for the window motor, which I already took out, I guess, weeks ago when I was diagnosing some other stuff. So to take this window motor out, you'll need a small socket. You want to use like a 1/4 inch with an extension and a 3/8 socket, so you can kind of get in there to those. It's just the two 3/8 bolts, and if it's still original, hasn't been messed with too much, there'll be a little brace right here with a Phillips head screw that holds the motor, you know, stable. A lot of times those are missing if people have already replaced the motors in the past. For the most part, all you need for this whole job is a 1/2 inch extension. I use the drill a lot. Also have the little power ratchet and stuff. Sometimes I use that, but just a 1/2 inch socket and a ratchet, and you should be able to get this done. You will want a small extension if you're just using a ratchet, but this is enough length to get into those holes. That's pretty much all you need. I have a flathead here and a pair of needle nose just for taking the little clips off the window lock rods and stuff like that, and the door lock rod and everything, to get those out, which isn't even really necessary to get the glass out. So what's basically going on here is you have two adjustments here. These are stops to stop the window from going too high. They also are used to kind of, you know, you can kind of use them as like a final adjustment to so the window sits right. But these two here, there's a little track in here, which I guess you'll see in a minute. But these two are adjustments. They raise that up and down, which also controls the tilt of the window. Probably need a little bit different angle here, but whatever. And then you have the adjustments here, right here and right here for the vent window, and that adjusts the vent window itself so that it lines up here with the you can't see that either, but whatever, with the pillar, and then with the windshield, and that also aligns the track that this window rolls in. And then you have your bottom adjustment here, where your bottom stop, which controls how low the window goes. You don't want it to drop way too far in there, but you know, obviously you don't want it sticking up. So that's, in a really quick nutshell, the adjustments. You also have there's a screw back here. I guess you can see that. You pop this little cover off, and there's a bolt in there, and that adjusts the back of the window track as well. So there's a lot of adjustment, there's a lot of tweaking necessary to get this all right. If your car is pretty close to right now and your windows lined up pretty much as they should, but you're just doing some repairs, or maybe you're, you know, replacing the regulator, I would suggest take a can of spray paint and just spray a little dot here and there wherever these adjustments are, and so that'll cover up where that bolt is or where that nut is. And then, or like these little braces, which I think there should be little square braces here actually, so somebody must have had this off in the past. There's like little square, like lock washer type deals. So you spray a little bit of spray paint on all these different, wherever there's a bolt for an adjustment, and then when you go to put it back together, you should be able to kind of line it back up really close and get it really close, and then you can do your fine adjustments later. If you ever are unfortunate enough to need to take the whole door off with all these bolts here and all these hinge bolts, same thing. Spray some paint, just some cheap spray paint in there, because you know you don't see any of this. The door panel goes back over it and stuff. And that is a really good way of kind of knowing where the bolts were, because once you take them out, obviously there'll be a spot there. So without further ado, let's get started. And you can just let those fall down in the door. These two are the same, so you know, they're the same, so you don't have to like mark which way, but I usually just mark like right front, left front, and then I put the bolts back in them once I dig them out of the door, wherever the hell they go. I usually put the bolts right back in the braces, so you know, you don't lose them. Normally I'm doing this with the window all the way down. It just kind of makes it a less of a drop, because when you start loosening all this, it's all going to kind of slide down. But I guess I had already took the motor out, like I said, weeks ago, and so that's all the stops. So it should kind of start to move a little bit, and then when we take this regulator out, it should kind of all drop down, and then we should be able to slide the glass right out. You don't want to, well, I guess you can't really, but you got to be real careful when you start messing with the actual window motor itself and that gear and everything, because that's all spring loaded, as you'll see probably in the next video, and it can be dangerous. And if you get your hands in here anywhere and that stuff starts scissoring down, you can literally chop your finger off. So even when you're doing this, like obviously when you start getting all the bolts out, if for some reason it's kind of, you know, jammed up in there a little bit, you don't want to start getting your fingers in here like this, because when it does finally let go, you can hurt yourself. So a lot of times, usually I take the vent window all loose first, because it makes everything a little easier to slide in and out. But I'm doing it this way just in case you're not removing your vent window and maybe you're only working on your window regulator. And so there's your glass. Hopefully my fat ass wasn't in the way. And you just kind of, like, as you saw, I just kind of went up and down a little bit, and that frees up the regulator from all the little different mounts and stuff. You get those little sliding wheels out of all the mounts. So like I said, once you get these pieces all off, it's a good idea to take the nuts and bolts and things that came off of them and go ahead and put them back where they were. And then this should all slide out. And there's your regulator. So then when you take these bolts off, be extremely careful, because like I said, this is all going to spring because of this spring. It's all going to spring and be pretty dangerous. So there are a few ways to do that. I'll go over that, I guess, when that time comes. And that's it, man. Your regulator is out. And then at this point, like I said, just spend a minute, put all your little bolts and screws and stuff back in place where they were. And mark everything, you know, just clean it a little bit, mark everything right front, right front, right front, so at least you know pretty much everything's going back where it was. I guess since we're at this point anyway, I'll show you guys taking the vent window motor out and then the vent window itself, just in case you're at that point. So these two bolts here actually hold in the motor. Now again, I'm doing everything totally different from scratch and everything, so this is a little bit different, but you would have wanted to spray paint those So, so you can get everything kind of lined back up right. And here's the vent motor. And these are pretty much unserviceable. It's crazy. This is a rubber coating around the whole shell of the motor. The motor casing itself is all built into this, so it's all kind of like almost one piece. So it's pretty much like if this goes bad, which I think I've had one over the years, and like 50 plus cars working on. I've only had one that actually went bad, and I had, you know, an extra. So you can rebuild them, and I did a video on that. Not sure if I posted that yet at this point, but I did a video on disassembling this whole thing, taking all these gears out and you know, greasing everything up and getting everything lined back up. There's some tensioners in there and everything. So you know, this is what makes this car so great. This is all like metal and brass and steel and, you know, tough shit. And there's no plastic, you know, gear, like little nylon pieces that wear out on, you know, modern window motors. So that's what makes these cars pretty amazing. Like this motor's 55 years old or some shit, and it's still going, and it'll probably go, you know, another 50 years. Just kind of get that gunky grease out of there. And you know, that's one of the things I love about these cars. You know, and all this stuff is serviceable, and it's not just throw away and replace, and you know. So anyway, I digress. Like I said, get your bolts out and stuff, and get them back in the holes that they came out of. I'm gonna have to get that one out once this, so you don't lose those. And then this is one of the adjustments, so be careful because it'll want to drop into the holes. So another kind of tricky part is the, it's kind of hard to get this vent window out with, I'll have to let that drop in there. With these are like the adjustment studs. It's kind of tough, and there's one on the bottom here too. Might get lucky and find that bolt, but no, I'll get it eventually. So now everything is loose. Just put that back in there before I lose it. There is a screw here that is holding the weather stripping. If you still have the original style weather stripping, it holds that to the vent window. Again, you want to get that out of the way. Make sure you put that screw back into the vent window so you're not looking for it later down the road. And so like I said, you can see, I don't know if you can see this, it's kind of sticking out a little bit. Well, you have an Allen. You can use an Allen key, or you can get the bit like this, and you actually run these in. So again, when you put, it is possible to get this out with a lot of finagling and stuff, and you can get it out without moving these in. You just got to fight it a little bit, and then it would kind of be in the right adjustment if, you know, if you were happy with where it was when you started. I hope this freaking thing is recording. Anyway, but you know, like I know how to do all this, and I'm used to it. I know how to get everything lined back up, and I'm usually nitpicking and getting everything, trying to get everything perfect anyway. So it's no big deal. I'll just run these back in so I can get the glass in and out a little easier. I should be able to show you that in just a second, what I'm talking about. Come on, baby. I didn't go in all the way. Well, get my piece here. Get this in just a little bit more. Come on, Kelly. And I mean, you want to be careful, but you know, don't be too timid and gentle. I mean, it's all pretty tough stuff. You just got to do a lot of wiggling and back and forth and just kind of find just the right slots for everything to work out. So this is one of the adjustments that I was just talking about. Hopefully this is focusing. If this is sticking out too far, and this one as well. See, I ran this all the way back in up against the track, but normally it's going to be sticking way out here somewhere. So that makes it really difficult to get everything, you know, finagled through those holes. So there you go. There's the vent window and the glass and the regulator. And like I said, I'm about to start taking all the little other shit off. There's just a few screws here, little screws that hold this trim piece in, and then two little clips here. This is where those window sweeps go that I did a recent video about. You actually undo these screws, you bend this whole piece of stainless down, stick the new window sweep in, and then bend it back up, and then when you run those screws in, you can use a little weather strip adhesive, but then when you run those screws in, that holds that in nice and tight. So hope that video helped you guys. That's how to do that, and the next video will be about the regulators. See you guys next time.